Alright guys, so I wasn't able to get out fishing this weekend since I wasn't feeling that good. So today I told the wife we had some stripers in the freezer, so why not try stripers to make some pickled fish. So typically for pickled fish, I typically like to use northern pike from Minnesota and fillet them with the bone in. This is stripers from South Carolina that were filleted boneless. So we're gonna try it because just feeling the meat, it feels like it's a larger, firmer meat, kind of like northern pike is. So we're gonna give it a try, and we'll go step by step through this. The first thing you gotta do once you have your pieces of meat here is you gotta cut it into the chunks. I'm going to leave the chunks somewhat larger just because this is boneless, and so we can get a firmer end product. So I'm just going to simply cut this in the chunks like so. And thing about striper is there's that strip of dark meat on the back of the fillets. So before you do this, you're going to want to make sure that you remove that strip of dark meat, as you can see I did, and that's pretty easy to get off of there. Alright, so now we have the fish cut into the chunks. So now what we got to do is mix up the salt water. So for every 1 quart of water you use a half a cup of salt. And you'll want to use a different container and to dissolve all the salt in the water. So my wife is going to pour the water in, or the salt into the water. Gonna dissolve it. I might have to probably use a couple quarts at least on this. Oh, excuse me. Then just pour it into the bowl here. Actually, that covered it all, didn't it? So as long as your meat's covered, you're good to go. So all we're gonna do with this now is we're gonna cover the bowl and let it sit in the fridge for 24 hours. Alright, so the fish has been soaking for 24 hours in the salt water. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drain the salt water. Still use the same bowl. Put that back in the pan. Now 24 hours in vinegar. Hopefully this is going to be enough. Oh yeah. So now you're going to soak your fish for 24 hours in vinegar. You always want to put a little bit extra because this is going to absorb. Perfect. And now we'll put that back into the fridge for another 24 hours, and then after that it will be packed in jars and making the brine. Alright, so we're back and our fish has been in vinegar in the fridge for 24 hours, and at this point we are going to start making the brine, which will be used in the jars with the fish when we pack it with the fish and the onions. So at this point we are going to start with the brine. 2 cups of white vinegar, right? And then with the wine, we're going to use a tawny port wine. You want to use a port wine, but if you make this enough, you start experimenting with the different wines, you can get a significantly different flavor out of the fish. So a lot of our friends down here in South Carolina like the tawny port wine and the pickled fish more, so we're going to make some more of that. The Osborne port wine over there that you can see is also good. We get ours from Total Wine, I believe. It's actually pretty difficult finding port wine anywhere else. So if you have a Total Wine, or you're going to be in a town that has one, I would recommend stopping and getting a bottle or two. So we added 2 cups of port wine. Now, how much sugar? So 1 and then 1/4 cup of sugar. Now the quarter. So add the 1/4 cup here of sugar. Alright. 2 teaspoons pickling spice. Teaspoon, it says here, is that tablespoon? Is that tablespoon? It says teaspoon here, babe. Actually, I think that's a typo in your notes. It probably should be tablespoon, shouldn't it? 2 tablespoons crushed red pepper. We'll put 1. There. And that's it. Now you bring the brine to a boil and stir. So let my lovely wife stir that. And do we have an onion in the fridge? So now I'm going to grab an onion here. How is it? How is it, babe? Is it good? That should be enough onions for now. Alright, so now we gotta strain the fish. You can see how what the vinegar does, it pretty much cooks the fish. So all I'm gonna do is run it through the strainer at this point. To come to a boil, and then we'll be ready to start packing the jars here. Alright, so now we boiled the brine and we let it stand and come back to room temperature. So now what we're going to do is each jar we're going to add 1 teaspoon of garlic, right, and 1 to 2 bay leaves in each jar, and then add in some onions. Now we're going to put the fish in. add your brine. There's one jar of pickled fish. So next jar, same thing. Add in some onions, garlic. Okay, bay leaf. If you can tell, Lana's the one that does this the most. It's been a while since I made this. More onions. Looks like we're gonna have to make a small third jar, doesn't it? There's no way I'm gonna fit all that in there, so I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, all the bay leaf. Alright. Start doing the last jar here. Bay leaves, there you go, babe. So these jars, you need to refrigerate this for 7 days before you try to eat it. But I'll tell you, I've had a jar in the fridge since July, and today is January 31st, and I'll tell you, it only gets better with time. So the longer they sit, the better it is. Alright,